everybody. Welcome to the Art of Living Well podcast. I am Liv Hill and excited to have you on our podcast for today. Today we are doing an interview with my friend Ashley Grizzle. Ashley, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I am so excited to have Ashley. She and I have been friends for a good amount of time, and actually I was on her podcast when I first started nutrition coaching. She invited me graciously onto her podcast, and that really got my feet in the arena as far as sharing things. So I'm so honored to have you back on mine this time, just a couple of years later. So exciting.
Yay! Yeah, I'm excited. We're going to talk about so many good things today, and just say this real quick. What I love about you, Liv, is your approach to nutrition. It's so balanced and so healthy, and we were just talking before we started recording about a lot of misconceptions and misinformation out there. And I love your approach, and I think it's so healthy. And it's so like when people invest in you and, engage with your material, they're getting someone that's not just trying to get them into a quick fix. It's a long-term healthy solution. And I love that. I love that so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, that's the best way to do it, right? Because it's something that's sustainable, you can stick with and feel good about.
Yes.
Feel so great about just taking care of yourself and knowing that you're going to do it for the long haul, which is fantastic. So Ashley, tell us a little bit about what you do, because you have one of the best jobs, second to nutrition coaching. No, teasing.
Yes.
You've got an amazing job. So talk to us about what you do.
Yes. So I am a mental health coach, therapist, counselor, whatever you want to call it. I see people all across the country in my virtual office, and I love it so much. It is what God has called me to do. I got my master's degree I graduated in 2020, and it was literally, I had already been working under my supervisor doing some counseling, and it was literally the perfect time to enter into the counseling field. People were reeling from COVID, struggling with a lot of depression and anxiety from just all that had transpired with lockdowns and things, and it has literally been the best because just connecting with people, they trust me with their stories and really see long-term sustainable change, and see people that felt like things are always going to be the same. I don't have any hope. Seeing people have hope. Oh, it is the best. And seeing them get into a healthy place mentally, which affects spiritual, physical, seeing them make those changes, it has been incredible. I am so thankful.
Well, you do a fantastic job at it, and I know exactly what you're saying. Like, it's when you see people have hope, and when you see them have joy, and when you know that they're going to have that breakthrough, it's like
yes.
you just are so excited for them to be able to do that and see that and give them control and give them more power, which feels great.
Yes. Absolutely.
You do a fantastic job at it. And I will, once this podcast is over, I will link Ashley's information in the show notes so that you can connect with her if you want to reach out to her for anything that she offers directly in her field. I know several people that have worked with her and just come off with like raving reviews. So,
I love that. Thank you.
All right. So Ashley is very much into making sure that we are taking care of our body. She and I often talk about nutrition things back and forth and share things. And so we kind of have that same mindset and approach as far as a whole body, sustainable way to care for yourself. So we're going to talk about some of the things that go into that and how our lines of business, so to speak, cross. And we're going to talk about, first off, I think going into when you're wanting to get control of your health, having that growth mindset. Most people don't think of that when they come into health. They don't think, well, I need to come in with a growth mindset. They actually come in with, I need to come in with this very restricted mindset.
Yes.
I need to do this because I feel so negative about myself and not coming from a positive place. And really, the clients that I have that are the most successful are the ones that either come in with a growth mindset or adapt a growth mindset through the process. And so I just want to talk about that just a little bit. I know that you teach growth mindset, and your thoughts on that and how that kind of correlates.
Yeah, I love that. I think that we, especially with our approach to nutrition, we think a lot of times, because of misinformation out there, that if we could just lose this much weight, that all of our problems are going to be solved. And really, I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of what you're dealing with is not so much the food itself. It's the approach to food and how people view food. And so, really having a growth mindset of, when you're going down this journey of, okay, I do feel like I want to lose weight, I do want to get a hold of my nutrition, the mindset is, I'm going into this as a learning experience. It's not just, this is where people really, really struggle, not just in nutrition, but in all areas of life. This is a learning journey for me. It's not a win or lose. This is a learning experience. And we can even really make this spiritual, okay? It's not just about the end goal or the outcome. It's about the process along the way and who I am becoming in this process. And so when we take that mindset of, okay, this is about who I am every single day and the strides that I'm making, what I'm learning about myself, what I'm learning about food, what I'm learning about what like feelings are coming up in me through this process. Like, that's just it. It's the process. And deciding I'm going to enjoy that rather than just being like, ugh, this is so frustrating. If I could just lose 50 pounds today, this would all be over.
Right. That would solve all of my problems, which,
Yeah.
it can feel like in the moment that if I lost X amount of weight, that it would solve all of my problems. But that's not what solves the problems. And so lining up, it doesn't. We'll just say that right there. I know people that have had, different medical things happen and they've lost 50 pounds and it did not solve the problems. Because exactly lining up with what you're saying, it's the journey and what you're learning. That's what solves the problems. And that's what makes you feel your best at the end. You will lose weight if you are doing a sustainable method. You will lose weight, change your body shape, become healthier, lab work, things like that along the way. But it's the journey of where you learn those things. That's where you win. That's where the ahas come in and you say, okay, this is where I'm seeing my relationship with food start to change.
Yes. And I think it's just watching how your mindset progresses over time is so amazing. I know with my own journey with food, when I started entering into like a more balanced view of nutrition, I had a lot of mindsets that were very rigid. Well, this food is bad, or this is bad, or this is, and it was very extreme. And a guy that I follow, he posted on Instagram the other day, and at the time when I had started my journey, he was the owner of the company that I was involved with as nutrition. He was very involved with the balanced mindset, and I just messaged him on Instagram, and I was like, seriously, thank you so much. I'm glad you're still in this space talking about this balanced view of food, because it literally changed my life and how I view nutrition. And he messaged me back and he was like, that I live for this. This is like what I've dedicated my whole life for. And it made me so happy, because just realizing that when we know that we want to get somewhere, whether it's lose weight, whether it's not feel so exhausted all the time, or, whatever the case may be, I'm sure you hear all kinds of reasons. We come in and say, okay, I'm going to take some of the old mindsets I've had, and I'm going to maybe just put them to the side right now and just open up a little bit to someone that would be you, that has done all the training, been through the experience yourself, have coached many people through the process, and she might say some things that I'm like, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. So I'm going to take those, I'm going to put them to the side. I'm going to say, I'm going to give this a try and see what I learn through this and see how I feel, see how it benefits me, and really give it a shot at opening up my mind, because that's most of the battle right there.
Oh, it is. It absolutely is. And that's so true. And it's like once you allow yourself to enter the arena of balance, and just exactly echoing what you're saying, because when you go into things and you're just shut off to the thought of balance, it is hard to break that mindset and to grow into that mindset. But one of the things that I say, I have an onboarding process that I go through, and the very last thing I say is, I want you to learn through this journey. I want you to learn what you're doing. And so I even made a post today that was talking about, weighing your food. So some folks do weigh their food, right? And when they weigh their food, they put it on the plate, or put it on the scale, and they put it on their plate, and they put it in the app and just roll on, right? Like we're just going through these motions. And I made a post about this today, but I also tell my clients, I'm like, don't go through the motions of that. Look at your hand compared to that protein. What does that look like? What does that feel like? Understand, because 10 years down the road, you want that freedom. And the only way to have that freedom with the food is to learn in your journey, learn the balance, learn the moderation. Because if it continues to stay this place where blindfolded, you don't know what's going on, you never get into the nitty gritty and learn the details. You never learn the balance. And that is what's going to take you, just like you said, when you're years later, the more that you lean into balance, the more that it's comfortable for you, and it's more sustainable for you long term.
Yeah, I mean, I think about some of my own past experience, and it's like, okay, like here's some like signs, that like your relationship with food is off. Like it's a mental thing. Like if you're going out of town and you're having a meltdown about your food because you're not going to be able to weigh everything and control every aspect, like you're still in the process. And if you're doing that and you don't have a nutrition coach, well, you need one, because that's, you know what I'm saying? Like that's not sustainable. Or if you're home and you have all these nutrition goals, and then it's your child's birthday and you're melting down because you're going out to eat for your child's birthday and you're having a nervous breakdown about your food, like that's not healthy. No. Or if you're having a bad day, or you're going on a vacation and your answer is, oh well, YOLO, you only live once, so then you just binge eat for like 3 days straight, and then you come back and you're miserable. Like that's saying I'm operating in extremes, and I'm going off of a control, like scarcity mindset. And what's so interesting about that, Liv, is like we see people do that with food all the time.
Yeah.
But then if they pay really close attention, they'll notice food is not the only place that they do that.
Okay. Yeah.
They'll go extremes and other things in their life too, whether it's spiritual or, their relationships. They'll be all in, all hyper focused. And then when things get hard, they just back off and like, just forget it. Whatever it is, it is. And that those really, when we start trying to change our food and how we approach things, it really tells us a lot about where our mindset is with balance, because food is plays such an important role in our life, and we don't realize how many feelings we have attached to it until we start trying to change something.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I think that's one of the things that brings me the most joy in my clients. And I had one that checked in yesterday, and she said, I'll make 2 comments that she said, and she's come so far and done such a great job. And she said that somebody at church offered her a Tootsie Roll, and they said, hey, do you want a Tootsie Roll? And then they recalled it back real quick, and they said, oh, you're on a diet, never mind. And she said that she snatched that Tootsie Roll out of their hand. I'm not on a diet. I'm changing my life. And she said, I can have this Tootsie Roll if I want it. And she said she like opened it up and popped it in her mouth, you know.
I love that.
Like, she said they probably were like, simmer down, girl. Simmer down.
I mean,
but you know, for her to do that, and then that was one day, and then she said that she went to a party, and it was at her favorite pizza place, and she told me, you know, I went to the party, I had this and that, you know, she shared with me what she had, and she said, but what I didn't have, I've got cold chills right now, because like you said, God calls us to do these things, right? And she said, but what I didn't have was stress and guilty feelings when I came home. Girl, I was like, I'll be right back. I'm taking a lap. I'll be right back. But that's where you find that balance, is because she went to the party. She did not pack her own food. She didn't sit in the corner with her arms folded. And that's very much a thing that people will sometimes do. You know, I'm just not going to eat anything. I'll sit with my arms folded, or YOLO, right? But she's found that true balance where she says, hey, you know, I enjoyed myself, but what I didn't have was the guilt and shame. And I didn't wake up sick, and I felt great. So carry on, you know. And so we were just carrying on, just rocking and rolling. She's in a fat loss phase, so just kind of rocking and rolling along with that. And I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah. That is beautiful, because I think that what that really points to is that we learn to be adaptable. Mm-hmm. And you can apply that to so many areas of your life, all of us. My husband always says that rigid things break. And he's exactly right. So if we learn to be adaptable with our food, controlling what we're able to control, managing what we're able to manage in a healthy way, and that goes with so many areas of life. Our relationships, managing what we're able to manage, and everything else, then we just adapt and set up healthy boundaries and realize, you know, every relationship scenario or family situation is not going to be perfect. Every food scenario is not going to be perfect. And so, hey, let's approach this. I'm going to do the very best I can with what I have in front of me. I'm not going to starve myself, punish myself, or overeat. I'm just going to do the very best I can. And then, you know, their work with you, it's like, okay, this is what I did here. And then you might be like, oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. Here's something maybe you didn't think about. So then what happened there? They made a decision. They did really well. Then you give them some insight. And next time something like that happens again, they've learned. And it's like, I've got tools in my toolbox to help me even be more adaptable. I've learned through this process, and I can make an even better decision next time. How great is that?
It's so great. It's so great. And that is exactly what happened with that client I just spoke about. At Christmas time, she went on a trip, and so that was her practice, you know. And so she practiced, and then she's had spring break, and she's practiced, you know, and every event she continues to get better and better and more comfortable. It's not even, yes, better and better, but just more comfortable, more confident in balance, and more understanding that she can have days where it is not going to be perfect, but the more best effort days that you have, that's going to teach you what balance is long term. Because life is never going to be, don't ask me how many perfect days just in life in general I've had since January, because I might have one, you know.
Sure.
And so you've got to just be able to navigate those things, and that's helps you from a nutrition standpoint, helps you from a mental standpoint. The more that you can learn to ride the ebbs and flows of things and not let them completely derail you, the better you're going to be in the long term.
You know what's so interesting, and this is a little bit of like probably a little bit of a nerd out comment, but I was just kind of like working through some material not too long ago, just on like the research of attractiveness and how attractiveness is determined. And a lot of times we will say, you know, if I lose this much weight, I will be more attractive. That's especially, that's kind of the underlying is I want to be attractive. I want people to be attracted to me. And really what a lot of the research showed is that attractiveness is really based on many factors, and it's individualized to a person what they deem as someone being attractive, because based on their history, and I don't want to go too deep into it because then we could really just be nerded out, but based on their history and experiences, what people deem as attractive physically can really vary quite a bit.
Oh, sure.
But what is really attractive is that when people have different physical preferences, and that's always been the case. And I really think, God just made us that way. And well, I don't know that we can ever fully understand all of the science of attraction, but really what is attractive to people is confidence, is, you can tell when someone feels good about themselves, when they're assertive, when they're, they feel. You can just see people, even maybe as someone that's really thin, and some people think that's the be all end all, but they have no confidence in themselves, and they're very, they're slumped over, they're afraid to speak. And you watch, if you're a watcher, observant person like me, that person typically is not attracting people to them, in the fact that people want to necessarily engage with them. It might be more of them trying to draw that person out from being the wallflower. But if you see someone that is, maybe they're not the leanest person you've ever seen, but you can tell they feel good about themselves, they're confident, they're assertive, they will look people in the eye. People are very attracted to that because there's something going on mentally. It's more than physical appearance. There's been a mental shift there. And that is very, very attractive. And we see that over and over and over again.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. That's awesome. I love that nerd out. And it makes total sense because you don't have, going back to what we were saying, like the leanness of you, the thinness of you doesn't bring that to light. What brings that to light is the more that you understand and the more knowledge that you have and the more confident that you are. And you can be confident at any weight, but you're going to be more confident when you feel good in your decisions when it lines up with nutrition. You're going to feel more confident about what you're doing with that too. And also from a health perspective, so this is kind of like a sidebar, kind of going off a little road here, but for example, like cardio, I'm not a huge fan of cardio, but doing cardio for my health makes me more confident that I am taking care of my health. So it's kind of those things too, which, like I said, that's just a little kind of taking a side trail there on that, but it's those kind of things that builds the confidence. Like, I'm definitely not myself. I am not the leanest person out there. I'm not on Instagram showing abs or things like that, but I'm very confident in what I coach and how I coach my clients, because we're not coaching for the look of confidence. We're coaching for the feel and the know of confidence.
So good. So good. Yeah, because I think I know for me, as I've gotten older, some things that I feel like are really a priority for me are, how do I feel? How am I sleeping? How do I feel when I wake up? And then I have 3 children. They are 6, 4, and almost 2. And so it's always like, how can I engage with my children? Do I struggle to pick up my kids? Do I struggle to play with them? Can I run with them if I want to? And if I'm checking the boxes on that, I'm feeling pretty good. There might be other personal goals I have as far as, building muscle or losing fat, discourage me when I know that with checking those other boxes, like I'm in a great place, and I have labs done, and I mean, I'm so boring. And my doctor is always like, you are so boring. She's like, I love boring patients. And I'm like, well, I'm glad.
Yeah.
And so when I can feel good knowing I can keep up with my kids, if my son takes off running, I can catch up to him real quick.
Yeah.
That makes me feel good. Like that's the stuff that is really important to me, really as markers of health, more than just, going to the store and like being able to buy a certain size. Because I mean, that just is so all over the place. That's not really a great marker of where you are health wise or body wise.
No, I agree with that. And health is such a priority because it saves you so much money. One, you feel great. And then two, like you said, you get those labs drawn. I'm like you. I had my labs drawn. I thought I was going through early menopause. I was like, oh, man, because I was really tired. And I was like, oh, I think I'm starting to go through menopause. And so I had my labs drawn. And it was like, no, girlfriend, you just need some vitamin D.
Love that.
Yeah, so I was like, grab that supplement and hit the road with it. But the thing is that was all that was needed. And menopause is not quite here yet, so I ain't mad about that. But the point is that when you get those labs and you feel and they look great and you're like, you know what? Eating quality foods, moving my body, weight training, like you said, that's checking off the boxes. That's helping me feel better, and it's helping me. What you do today helps 10 years down the road. So you're pouring into yourself now, and so you may not, if you focus on a size, I know many people that have come to me and they are already at a certain size and they are unhappy and they are very unhealthy. So size does not equal health either, which is a whole different
it doesn't. And I just think one of the things I see, and you probably see it more than me, is our perception of where we are and even what we can be sometimes is so skewed. For example, I'm only 5'4". I'm not very tall.
Yeah.
And I know what the line of people look like in my family. And so I realize I can be my very healthiest, but there's no time that I'm going to look like a Instagram influencer that's 5'9" and her legs, are most of her body. Like that's not my genetic makeup. It doesn't matter how many weights I lift. I'm not going to look like that. Right. And so part of this growth mindset is, okay, I'm growing. My mind is open to being the best and feeling the best and looking at the best of who I can be, not so fixated on someone that's not even close to my reality, and thinking and getting so discouraged because I'm not going to look like them. Well, they're many, many inches taller than me. That's never going to happen.
It's not genetically possible.
Right.
Yeah. And having that growth mindset, I'm with you, coming back to that, like that's just the key. That is growing and being willing to learn. Those go hand in hand. And the more that you open your mind to that, you soar. That's what I tell my clients when they first start with me. I'm like, if you're willing to learn, I tell them, if you're willing to learn, if you're willing to communicate, and if you're willing to grow, the sky's the limit. Like, we're going to crush this if you have that mindset. And they do, when they come in and you set that ground rule up front instead of, this is the plan, you got to follow it exactly 7 days a week, Instead, you're like, yeah, we're going to go by the plan, but this is the main driver here, is making sure that we're learning and growing.
Yeah, and I think I would say, and I think this kind of connects with something else that we've talked about, like with stress and the effects it has on our bodies. Sometimes when we even start a nutrition program, we can put ourselves under stress because we are really lacking a growth mindset. We're very fixated. And this is not my thought. I think this came from Ali Abdal, and he writes a lot on productivity. He is a former doctor turned YouTube sensation, and he wrote a book called Feel Good Productivity. Mm-hmm. And it's so good. But he approaches things like with work or things that he's trying to do, and he says, how can I make this fun? And I love that because we live under such, we think when we're adults, our fun is over.
Yes, right.
And so, and especially, Liv, you hear this so much in the world that you're living in of discipline and willpower. And
Yes.
I'm all for those things. I think they have their place. But I wonder if we shifted our mindset a little bit and said, how can I make this fun for
Yeah.
me? How
Yeah.
can this be an enjoyable experience for me rather than just always relying on, oh, willpower, discipline, discipline. Those things are wonderful. They have their place. But it's like, okay, how can I work this in? I'm working on my nutrition, but how can this be like a really enjoyable experience for me?
Yes. Oh, Lord. Yes. Three cheers for that because, first of all, motivation, discipline, those things are willpower. Willpower, especially, it's finite. You know, we have such a limited amount of willpower that we
Yes.
can use. And so when we lean into that and we understand like the willpower is not the driver. And so when you are able to make it fun and whenever you're able to make the action that you're taking fun, that's when you're going to see the chain start to move for you and the train to start to move because a lot of people come in and they rely on I'm going to have this motivation and then I'm going to have these results and this is what's going to happen, but really it starts with first I need to take the action, and so then I get the action, then I have the results, and then I have the motivation. And the action needs to be fun. The action needs to be something that you enjoy doing. I'm big into like incorporating your kids into the movements that you do, or incorporating your kids or your husband in, cooking and things like that. Because the more fun that you have with the action, that's going to create the results, and that's going to actually what gives you the motivation and willpower to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, it was hilarious. My daughters always want to do workouts with me. And I was laying on the floor lifting weights, and my middle daughter came in and she grabbed she little like 3 pound. She had two little 3 pound weights, and she was laying beside me. And she's like, "Oh, Mom, this is a hard workout." I'm like, "Yes, girl, you get it." Yeah, I mean, and she had a whole commentary, and then at one point she was counting for me. And I was like, okay, you're gonna have to speed this up a little bit. Like, speed the count. Let's go, let's go. And it's fun, and it teaches our kids when they see us doing it, like, hey, this is important to me. This is fun.
Yeah.
Life doesn't have to be so like just rigid and routine and a drudgery all the time.
Yeah.
We can make this a fun experience, and I love that approach just to life in general.
Yeah, life should be fun. And right now trending on Instagram, there's a couple of coaches that spoof off of other. I'm sure they do it in all areas, but it's all about. I've seen a ton talk about the cortisol face. And so I don't know if you've seen those or not, but they talk about this was my face, this was my cortisol face, and it's like a before, and this is my cortisol face, and it's an after. And they are just boogeymanning stress is, what is keeping everybody from losing weight and going into things. And I do want you to talk a little bit about your experience from your profession with stress. And stress is not your friend, to have it all the time. But now I've got women that are coming to me and they are coming from a place of, I'm afraid to do anything now. I'm afraid to take any action because that's going to raise my stress level. And if that raises my stress level, then I'm going to have a cortisol response. And if I have a cortisol response, then I can't lose weight. And so then they're trying to not stress, but then they're overstressing. It's just this crazy cycle. And so, I explained to them how stress in small doses is normal. If we didn't have a stress response, then if, a bear came up to attack our children, we'd be like, yeah, sounds good. Like you've got to have like a stress response where you're, ready to take action, but also living in a state of stress is not a place where you want to be either with your nutrition. And so I think finding that balance again, always the topic of conversation, but between fun and then stressing out about things as well.
No, that's so good. Yeah, so for sure, we need a healthy amount of stress. It's so crazy to me how things that are normal processes of the body, people have turned those around to, hey, your body is your enemy. It's like, no, our bodies are our friend. Our bodies are adaptable. Our bodies are very resilient.
Very.
Oftentimes it's our mind that's the problem behind all of that. But no, we need to make a change. I mean, think about it. I mean, I'm sure you've talked about this quite a bit, but even to, build muscle, there's a strain that is put on that muscle, and the muscle, fibers are broken down, and then the rest in the recovery, like, builds it back up because we've placed such an emphasis on, like, mental health and being healthy and not being stressed out all the time. It's almost like, and I don't want to sound insensitive, but it's almost like everything stresses us out now.
Everything.
And it's like, okay, like, what's on your plate? Because it's a gold standard now for people to just be like, oh, I'm so busy. Oh, I'm so overwhelmed. Oh, everything's crazy. And it's like, see, why are we doing that?
It's a flex, right? Some
Yes.
people do that as a flex. Like, the busier I am, it's a flex. And I'm like, it's not a flex to be addicted. You can be addicted to that stress. That's not a good place to be.
Yeah. And so saying, well, I can't do anything because I'm going to be stressed and I'm going to not lose weight. That's really oversimplifying. And really not having, like, confidence in your body. Really, I would say, if somebody was telling me that and I'm not a nutrition coach, I would say, okay, well, you need to go to your doctor, get your labs done. Or if you feel like you're stressed and you're not losing, because if you're stressed, you're not losing weight, it's probably what's happening during stress is you're not tracking your food and you're actually intaking more food than you think you are.
Yeah, you're overeating in those stressful states. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And have you seen, I'm sure that you have, I don't even know why I say have you seen, but and that goes right in line with what the relationship with food, and I know some folks work with you about their relationship with food. We had dual clients before working with both of us, which I think is great. And that's what they see in that stressed out state, is that's when they tend to go to more foods and to ease that stress. And so, again, trying to find that balance between how you're responding to the stress when you do have it, if it is a continual stress.
Or I see people that will they'll restrict their food, and they'll lose weight because they're not eating like they should, and then they start feeling terrible because they're not fueling their body. So then everything kind of, like, they start, like, coming out of their, like, stressed out state, and then they start fueling their body again. They see the scale go up, and they're like, oh, I don't know what's going on, I'm losing weight. And I'm like, well, you were under eating. I'm getting fat. I'm doing this. I'm like, well, if you weren't eating as a method of, like, control, then you're start prioritizing food again and going out and, eating, and, the scale is going to fluctuate, and that's not, like, a cause for concern. Our bodies are so amazing at, like, making adaptations. And so that extreme of, stress and not eating, or stress and overeating, and then overcorrecting because of those things, we really do ourselves a disservice. We're not getting a accurate picture of what's really going on because we just want to just jump the gun and say it's this or that. And it's like, our bodies are not that reactionary, in my opinion.
No, they're not that reactionary. They're not that reactionary at all. And so going into people thinking that stress is a major cause for all of their weight loss problems, fat loss problems, or why they can't get to where they want to be, make that progress. stress does have a component, but it's more about the response to the stress than anything else. So what are some tips that you can give, and what kind of give that you help your clients with to help reduce stress? What works well?
Yeah, so I know in the moment when someone is feeling high levels of stress or anxiety, and maybe they are like reaching for food, or maybe they're doing other harmful things, and maybe they're reaching for like pornography or something like that to deal with their stress. I always say, what is the feeling that is under that stress? Because that's the biggest thing, okay? Because we say stress and we use it as kind of a blanket term for, any like types of anxiety. So it's like, okay, what's underneath that? Are you fearful of disappointing someone? Are you trying to get affirmation from here? Like, what's going on? Are you looking for something externally from someone? Do you have a really perfectionistic mindset? Like, have you said yes to too many people? Like, what's going on underneath of the stress? Let's really zero in on exactly how you're feeling and like what's underneath that. What are you thinking? And then, if they're reaching for food, it's like, let's look at a long-term like solution. Like, is this going to be the answer? Is food's just going to cover up overeating on like your favorite, fast food meal? That's just going to give you a temporary hit of, the feel goods, the comfort food. So what are some things that can make you feel good in this moment, but also are not going to derail you? Because if you're eating, binge eating McDonald's every time you feel stressed, over time, that's going to be an issue. So what can we do to meet the need you're having right now? It's like, what do I need? What do I really need right now? Mm-hmm. Is that setting some boundaries? Because I need to learn how to say no. I need to learn how to set some mental boundaries so that I'm not always getting stressed because I'm worried about making everybody else happy.
Yeah, right.
Am I worried because I'm perfectionistic? So what do I need right now, and what's going to help me change this long term? Because then once you start working on that, if you love McDonald's, then you can make a conscious choice to go to McDonald's, pick some things off the menu that make you feel good, make you feel happy in a healthy way. If this fits into my plan, I've chosen to have McDonald's today. This is great. This is not this is not a binge. This is a decision.
Right.
Yeah. And so when someone tells me they're stressed, I would say, okay, so let's break that down. What are you stressed about? What's on your plate? What can you take off your plate? What stuff are you managing physically or mentally for other people that you can say, here's your stuff back.
Here's the back, yeah.
Sorry, I cannot be your emotional dumping ground. I can't do these things for you. This is yours. I'm giving it back. Mm-hmm. And that's hard.
It is hard. It's hard to do, but it helps in the long run. And this is why it's so valuable to have you on today, because being able to talk about that deeper level of things, because you may not realize that those things are going on until you do get into nutrition coaching. You may think that I don't have the willpower, but it is a lot of times underlying things sometimes that we've got to unearth and deal with first before we can continue to make the progress and get us out of that yo-yo cycle and out of the cycle of restriction and binge.
Yeah, and I would say like, okay, you feel like you're so like stressed out or you don't have time. Well, there are people out there, not me because I'm not type A. There are people out there that live and die by their calendars. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, well, you know what? You put time in your calendar, set, 30 minutes or do it on the weekends, and you live and die by that time that you sit down and you plan out your food, or you plan out your meals, you plan out your exercise time, make it non-negotiable on your calendar, and then you have a little emergency list. Okay, if I get stressed, I'm going to grab this. If I get, if I'm out and I'm caught out, I'm going to go through Chick-fil-A and get grilled nuggets. And you know what I'm saying? Like, you make a plan, and then we start running out of excuses. It becomes, we just want to go to the default, well, I'm so stressed out. And it's like, no, let's dig in there and get to the root of what's under that stress. And then we can really plan and understand a little bit more about why we default sometimes to doing things that are unhealthy.
You said that perfectly, because that's exactly what it is when we have that stress response, we go to the default every time. Yes. And so you've got to work to rewire the default. And so then your new default, if you continue to stress, your new default may be Chick-fil-A, right? That might be your new default. But when you do stress, you definitely go straight to that old school comfort default. And even if that default doesn't serve you, you will still go there and then try to pick up the pieces later.
Absolutely. And I think realizing too, like the long game, and I'll just say this, realizing the long game, that what you're taking your clients through of diet and healthy movement and exercise and sleep and all of that, those are things that are going to give you clarity and the mental and physical energy to actually reduce your stress over time. Because then you're going to be able to, exercise is shown to give you those hits that you maybe would get from doing other things that aren't as healthy, and it just reduces your stress levels over time, and you sleep so much better. And so it's like, when I do these things, I'm actually managing my stress, and then I'm going to be able to make better decisions about other things because I've got the clarity, I've got the health, I feel good. So I can look at these things and say, I need to take this off my plate, I need to tell this person no, I need to have that hard conversation, I need to do this, because you've already taken some steps to take care of yourself, and it really has a compound effect over time, and it's amazing.
It so does. And so the same with me and what I do. So at this point, I lost weight. It's almost been 15 years ago, which is insane to think about. I don't know how that happens when I'm 20. I don't know how that happens. But, so 15 years ago, I lost the weight. But you have to look at the long term. And this is what I teach to my clients too. And exactly with what you're saying is, I'm still doing these. Just because I'm a nutrition coach does not mean that I'm automatically lean or on the leaner side. I'm not gifted that because of that. And the same with my family genetics. Like, my family genetics are not favorable to me at all. Yeah. And so playing that long game isn't just because I've lost the weight. I've had to develop that mindset as I went through this, is that I continue to lift weights. I continue to eat healthy, continue to sleep, because that helps me be a better person in the long run of life. And that's the goal, is to continue to better yourself and become healthier over time. And so when you think of the long game, you have to really think about, who do I want to be? And when I think about myself in 10 years, I want to be happy, healthy, feeling good, right? And so these activities every day, exactly what you're saying, they compound and they build. And over time, you look back and you say, wow, in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years time, these small decisions that I've continued to build on have paid huge dividends.
I love that. I love that. So good.
Well, thank you so much. This was so much fun. I love everything that you brought to this. And tell everybody where they can find you. Like I said, I'll put it in the show notes. And but if anybody wants to reach out to you, if you want to drop your information.
Yeah, you can go to www.thegrizzles.coach /coaching, and you can find out more information there about what I have to offer. And you can follow me on Instagram at AshGrizz812, and I have some posts just about lots of different things, mental health, leadership. It runs the gambit. But yeah, you can also follow me on Instagram and find out more about my services there.
Thank you. I highly recommend looking her up. She is a great resource and fantastic at what she does. All right. And if you want to connect with me, of course, I always mess this up. I need to write it down so I can keep it up here. So you can connect with me at Liv on Instagram, or you can get on the website at www.livehillnutrition.Ashley. Well, thank you so much for joining today, and I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Talk to y'all soon.